Welcome to the Pitchability Show. This is the show where you develop from the ground up. Welcome to the Pitchability Show. This is Tom Oldham with Dynamic Velocity. This is going to be the second video in our youth development series. Last time we talked about how you're supposed to be moving just as you're doing catch play as a youth. Now we're going to advance a little bit. Now we're going to talk about pitch grips. So one of the things that I really want the youth players to understand is when you're throwing the baseball, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're throwing primarily a four-seam pitch or a two-seam pitch. The most important thing is that it feels strong and stable in your hand. So a couple of the things that I work with guys on is really their thumb placement in relation to their top two fingers. So with the four-seam fastball, and if you're not familiar with what that is, if you have the horseshoe of the baseball and you lay it down and then you put your fingers over the top of it, now as that ball is coming off your fingers, you have the four seams cutting through the air. That's what we mean by four-seam fastball. So for youth guys, sometimes they don't have very big hands or very strong hands, so I really focus on the thumb placement in relation to the top two fingers. That does not change if we go to a two-seamer where we're basically cutting the ball in half with our fingers or right on the seams there. There's many different variations of a two-seamer. For youth, ideally you have it to where you're not necessarily having your fingers together just because of the size of their hands. So what I suggest is right inside of the seams, and again, having that thumb underneath of those fingers. That's really, really important. The other thing is you want to make sure that the ball isn't on the fingertips or too far back in the hand. So getting it to where they're just catching it and holding the ball, that's kind of the same type of feel or the same type of grip that you want to have as you're working with teaching youth how to throw a four-seamer or how to throw a two-seamer. Again, it's not necessarily that you have to throw a four-seamer or a two-seamer. It's just whatever is most comfortable for the player. Now, as they advance and want to start throwing other pitches, it's really, really important to still maintain that stability and strength in the hand. So when you're going from a four-seam fastball to a changeup, I tell them to keep their thumb in the same spot and then to start just moving their dominant fingers to the inside of the ball a little bit. So as a lefty, I would then get my middle finger and ring finger on top of the ball a little bit more, and that's going to allow, when I'm releasing the ball, to have that be done through my non-dominant fingers, and then hopefully have the effect of slowing down the pitch. The big thing to focus on with youth when you're going from a fastball to a changeup is getting the grip, presetting the grip, and then thinking fastball. We don't want them slowing down their arms, slowing down their body, because a lot of times that's going to cause the ball to elevate as opposed to having the ball get that good run or sinking action that we want when we're working with the changeup. So if you're going from a fastball to a changeup, again, make sure that that thumb stays centered underneath of the ball so you have that good stability. And there's many different types of changeups too. If you want to go with a pitchfork changeup for youth, which a lot of times people will just because, again, the size of their hands, or if they have larger hands, then you can get that ring finger and middle finger more in the middle of the ball, and now you can even play with creating a circle changeup as well. So biggest thing is making sure that whether they're going four-seam or two-seam, they're consistent with it. So as you're doing the catch play or getting onto the mound, what I would suggest is every single time they put the ball in their glove, they put it in their glove the same way. That way, if they're coming set or just grabbing the ball, they know exactly where their fingers are going to be placed on the ball. So it's easy to go from a fastball grip to then a changeup grip for the player. Getting them into a habit of doing that through catch play or through drills is going to be really, really important so that they don't have to think about it when they're on the mound. So that's the second thing with pitch grips. As we get going, we're going to talk about different types of pitch grips with youth, but these are the first two that I think are really foundational that I would cover first. Hope that helps.